Configured assemblies can be inserted directly into an assembly or have the configuration changed after placement. A new assembly is required for a workbench and toolbox combination. This new assembly requires configurations for different available options. The workbench subassembly has pre-existing configurations for the width, depth, cabinet placement, and is available in a mobile version. The toolbox subassembly has pre-existing configurations for the width, handle style, and location, along with different base options. To insert a specific configuration of the workbench, expand the pull-down menu next to the workbench, select the appropriate parameters, click Generate, and select the newly generated workbench assembly. Repeat the previous steps to insert the toolbox into the main assembly. The toolbox will not have a handle or base when inserted. After the toolbox and workbench are placed and mated, the assembly needs to be configured to allow variations of the components. The toolbox could be mounted on the left or right side of the workbench. Create a list input named Toolbox Side to show the toolbox positioned accordingly. Add left and right as configurations. Right-click on the mate and select Configure Suppression. Once added, the mate is now displayed inside the Toolbox Side table within the configuration flyout. Update the table to reflect the correct suppression state. Right-clicking on the workbench displays a menu and Change Configuration is selected. Right-click on Type and select Configure. Once added, the workbench is now displayed inside the Toolbox Side table within the configuration flyout. Update the table to reflect the correct workbench leg location. Inside the configuration selector, activate the right configuration. This suppresses the mate and the toolbox can be moved. Add a second mate to locate the toolbox on the right side of the workbench. Right-click on the mate and select Configure Suppression. Once added, the mate is now displayed inside the Toolbox Side table within the configuration flyout. Update the table to reflect the correct suppression state. Using the configuration selector, as the configuration is switched, the toolbox is repositioned to the left or right side of the workbench. This assembly is available with a mobile option. A checkbox input to control caster suppression is created and named Mobile. The default value is unchecked. This ensures the workbench is not mobile by default. Right-clicking on the workbench displays a menu and Change Configuration is selected. Right-click on Mobile and select Configure with Mobile. Once added, the workbench is now displayed inside the mobile table within the configuration flyout. Checkboxes inside the mobile table are updated to reflect the correct suppression state when mobile is checked on inside the configuration selector. Right-clicking on the toolbox displays a menu and Change Configuration is selected. Right-click on Base and select Configure with Mobile. Once added, the toolbox is now displayed inside the mobile table within the configuration flyout. Update the table parameters by selecting Caster from the pull-down menu. When the assembly is mobile, handles are required for steering. The handle position also changes depending on toolbox location. Two existing configuration tables are used to control the handle state and position. Right-clicking on the toolbox displays a menu and Change Configuration is selected. Right-click on Handle Side and select Configure with Toolbox Side. Repeat the previous steps for the handle style. Once added, Handle Side displays in the Toolbox Side table within the configuration flyout, and Handle Style is displayed in the mobile table. Parameters are changed to update the handle location and style accordingly. The assembly is available in any width from 96 through 144 inches. A configuration variable named Workbench Width is used to set the desired width. Length is selected as type and has the following parameters: default of 96 inches, minimum of 96 inches, and a maximum of 144 inches. Right-clicking on the workbench displays a menu and Change Configuration is selected. Right-click on Width and select Set to Workbench Width. After selecting Generate and accepting the dialog, the workbench is now displayed inside the Workbench Width table within the configuration flyout. The configuration selector displays the different inputs created: list, checkbox, and configuration variable. Each input controls parameters listed in the corresponding table within the configuration flyout. To activate a specific configuration, select it from each of the inputs. The assembly updates accordingly. The active configuration is also indicated inside the configuration flyout by a blue highlight.